Okay, and I'll try to speak up. Good morning. Earlier this morning, we received a 911 call for a man armed with knives who was threatening folks who were in and out of this business area right here in busy part of Waverly. The day after Thanksgiving, he was also threatening people who were waiting at the bus stop with the knives. So that generated a 911 call to the Baltimore Police Department. We responded immediately. Police officers, 3 uniformed police officers were on the scene. In addition to their on-scene presence, they issued several verbal commands to the suspect. After those verbal commands were issued, he refused to drop his knives, still maintained possession of his knives. So then we progressed to the use of a taser. A taser was deployed on the suspect. The taser did not take effect. So our on-scene presence, our verbal commands, the taser, none of those efforts worked to disarm this man who was armed with 2 knives. And 2 of our police officers then discharged their firearms and they struck the suspect several times. I don't know exactly how many. He's in critical condition right now. He's being treated at a local hospital. We do know that at least one of our police officers had a body-worn camera on his person. So we're in the process of reviewing that body-worn camera right now for that footage. And if and when that footage is retrieved and is of value to share with you all and with our community, it's certainly our intention to do that. As you know, a couple days ago, a Baltimore police officer on the west side of the city was involved in a police-involved shooting. That incident was a traffic stop. A man with a gun confronted our police officer on that occasion. And today, a man armed with 2 knives confronted our police officers. And that was after he threatened several people in the middle of the day right here in Waverly. And we responded and handled that scene as well. I can certainly take any questions. Brian?
You tased him first?
A taser was deployed first, so you know that progression took place, and there were 3 officers on the scene. After the verbal commands, he still refused to drop the knives. He had by preliminary accounts, he had a knife in each hand, so a taser was deployed. That didn't work, and then he of course remained armed with those 2 knives, and that's when our officers discharged their firearms.
Can you speak to the idea of 2 police-involved shootings in 1 week?
So yeah, and that's why I wanted to address the one that happened earlier in the week in West Baltimore. This is a traffic stop. This is a cop doing his job on a traffic stop, and the motorist gets out of the car with a gun in his hand. And that's a threat not only to that police officer, but to that entire community. And today, right here in Waverly, the day after Thanksgiving, we've got a man armed with 2 knives who's threatening people going about their business in Waverly. He's threatening people waiting for a bus stop. And thank God that we had someone call 911, and I'm so proud of these officers, the way they responded to the scene, the way that they attempted to de-escalate. Unfortunately, that didn't work. And then their use of a non-lethal tool like a taser is something that we train and we expect of our police officers, and by all accounts, preliminarily, they did just that.
Commissioner, a knife in each hand is pretty threatening in of itself. Did the person with the knives make any verbal threats, or did he do anything in addition to just having them?
So we're going to get to the bottom of that. I'd say a knife in one hand is certainly threatening enough, but a knife in each hand is certainly bizarre. So we're going to, our detectives are on the scene right now, so any statements that he made to folks here, before we got here, we intend to gather those statements, and anything he said to police officers, it's certainly our intention to get into his state of mind. I'm not sure what his state of mind was. I think it's safe to say it was unstable, it was threatening, it was menacing, and thank God that none of our citizens got hurt out here today. Thank God.
What was the initial complaint? What kind of knives were they?
We'll be able to release pictures of them like we normally do in the day after press conference. I can't really do it justice, but describing them as knives.
Commissioner, how many officers fired shots again?
2.
2? Any idea how many shots?
The only thing I can tell you is several right now. I don't like to just commit myself to a count. Obviously, you see several markings behind us, evidence markings indicating that several rounds were fired. Again, he's in critical condition right now. We had our police officers rendered first aid immediately after we shot this man. We rendered first aid. So by all accounts, the officers went step by step by step to not only try to protect this community, but to protect this suspect, protect him from himself. Certainly bizarre behavior, not behavior that anyone expects any day of the year, but particularly the day after Thanksgiving.
And at least one officer had a body camera on?
Yes. And again, we intend to review that. We are reviewing it right now. There's a process involved there, and we certainly intend to share that with the community as well.
And what was the initial complaint when someone called 911?
It was a man armed with knives, plural, waving them and threatening shoppers and threatening people at the bus stop that you see right over my right shoulder. Not certain what was going on in this man's mind. Again, certainly unstable, certainly threatening, menacing, and you know, thankfully, we're not out here with homicide detectives right now. The suspect, I can only describe him as an adult male. I'm not sure that we have his identity verified right now. We intend to do that very quickly and share that with you guys like we normally do.
By threatening people, was he just showing the knives? Really, was he actually going after people? Was he threatening people at the bus stop? What do you know about his actions that led your police officer?
His actions were described to us by the 911 caller as threatening. So when we arrived here, he still maintained possession of those knives. It's not a normal thing for a person to maintain possession of knives when he's being asked by 3 uniformed police officers to drop the knives. So he didn't drop the knives. We deployed a taser. That didn't work, unfortunately, and then deadly force was used. And again, he's in critical condition at a local hospital.
Do you know how many times he was struck?
Several. I don't have an exact count, right? We'll you know, like we do our normal day after press conference, we'll have all those unanswered questions answered for you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Happy Friday.